Welcome to Martinez Life. I'm Tom Greerty. We're over here at the Comcast studios in Walnut Creek, and we've got Julian Frazer with us here on board horse from Franklin Canyon. Julian Frazer, how you doing, Julian?
Great, Tom.
Yeah. Were you born and raised with horses?
Yeah, I rode a horse since I was 4 years old. My grandfather, Julian, taught me how to ride.
Yeah. What kind of a horse is this?
This is a purebred Appaloosa.
Yeah. And what's the horse's name?
Handaleta. We'd call her Letty.
Letty, yeah. Yeah, let's go. Let's see her dance a little bit. Can you make her dance? Hey, Julian can handle a horse pretty good. Back her up a little bit, Julian. There you go. You put her in parades and what have you?
Yeah, she's been in, I think, 3 parades.
Aren't you also affiliated with the Park Service with a horse division or something in San Francisco?
We're on mounted patrols, but we're supposed to keep that cool. And I'm in 2 patrol groups, and it's a private thing, and we're supposed to stay out of the public microphone, but I can say I'm in a patrol group for Contra Costa County.
Well, I want to know one thing, Julian. This is the political season in Martinez, and we want to know if you're going to get off your high horse and get back in that political race again this fall with the city council. Will you be getting off your high horse?
I may say a couple things, but I think I had my turn.
You were elected to the Martinez City Council.
Yes, I was.
And what terms did you serve?
From 92 to 96. I was elected in 92.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of things to talk about, but unfortunately, we cannot talk about them out here. We need to go inside the studio. Julian, are you prepared for that?
All righty.
All right. Okay, so this is Tom Greerty from Comcast Studios in Walnut Creek with Julian Frazer and his horse, Letty. Let's back her up, Julian, watch her dance a little bit. Play that music. Dance her a little bit, Julian. Dance her. We're back in the studio with Julian Frazer, and I want to thank you for that little settee outside with the horse. That was well done.
Yeah, that's horse as fashion accessory.
Yeah. Now, your family on the Frazer side goes way, way back, like to 1849, 1850 in Martinez.
Yeah, we've been here a long time.
How many generations?
5 generations, including myself, yeah.
In Martinez?
In Martinez is the pioneer family. I got 3 great-grandfathers up on the hill.
Yeah. Up on the hill. You mean the old Martinez Cemetery?
The Pioneer Cemetery, yeah. My grandmother's there, and a number of people from the canyon as well.
And when you say the canyon, you mean Franklin Canyon?
Yeah, Franklin Canyon. You know, John Muir lived at the front of Franklin Canyon. We lived out in the back.
Right. And so in your family, when they came down, what, 1850, 1849?
Yeah, that's a good time period.
Where'd they come from?
They came down from Oregon, and I don't have a lot about the family history. Basically, they came down from Oregon, yeah.
And there was, you know, the original Fremont group, about half of them came down through Oregon, and there was a Frazer with the Kit Carson group that he was with.
I saw that name, and I tried to find out if it was background, but it's still a mystery to me. But yeah. I'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, and your family was in the ranching business right away in Martinez a long time.
They ran Hereford cattle, they farmed, raised vegetables and things like that, yeah, for the cannery. There was a lot of the Zupins and the Frazers all supplied tomatoes for the cannery at those times. I guess in the 50s, yeah. 1950s.
And then, but even before that, going back when Shell Oil was first formed, I had always heard that the Frazers, your grandfather, had sold a ranch to Shell Oil for the refinery property.
It would have been his father, so it would have been at least a great-grandfather. And I think that was probably early 1900s. And yeah, I think we traded that property in to get the property out in the canyon.
Out in Franklin Canyon.
Yeah.
And there's a train whistle stop there in the train that goes over the trestle that runs really the Santa Fe.
Yeah, that used to be named Glen Frazer. It's still named Glen Frazer. The sign disappeared years ago. I'm going to try to get the sign back, but I don't know when. It's been there for years.
So you were born out there on property?
Yeah, not literally. I was born in the little community hospital in Martinez, but yeah, that's where we lived.
But the family owned a ranch out there, and that's where you were born and raised.
Right. Technically, my first house was Veal Avenue, right there, and then shortly after that, my father bought a piece of property off his uncle. Yeah. And my dad built the house out in Franklin Canyon himself.
Yeah. And your dad married into the Romeo family, married a Virginia Romeo.
Yeah.
So on your mother's side, your family goes way back into the fishing village.
Yeah, we're 3 generations. I'm the 3rd generation of the Italian fishing family. The fathers of that family came from Isola de Femina, And,
Yeah. Romeo.
the Romeos, yeah, I'm very proud of that heritage as well.
Yeah, they were great, known as great fishermen, honest people, good.
Always one of the best. One of the
Yeah,
best.
always in the top. You know? But you've fished in Alaska with those fishing families.
Yeah, and in fact, it was very similar to the type of fishing that happened in the straits, in our own personal straits.
Whose boat did you fish on?
I fished with a man named Harlan Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
And we did something called set net fishing, which you anchor your net to the shore and come out, rather than drift fishing where the nets stay on the boats.
Now, now, given all this background that we're talking about, which is agricultural and marine background, you've gotten quite stirred up about the beavers.
Well, I've been a naturalist my life just by definition. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
Well, my young life, I spent most of the time wandering the hillsides, chasing animals and having them chase me. So it's just a natural thing. And the beaver are a phenomenon. My family never talked about beaver in that creek. My mother was raised down on Alhambra Creek, just down from where the beaver are right now. And it's really a phenomenon. It's a good thing for Martinez. It's a good thing for the environment. People are talking about reconstituting the environment, and we've done it. We've put new habitat in and stuff like that, and the beaver's taken advantage of that, and they've actually made an environment for a lot of other aquatic animals. And at the end of this program, there's a website listed underneath the screen. It's martinezbeavers.org, and you can find the complete history of Martinez beavers since day one, basically. And I just hope those beavers stay here. They deserve to stay here more than some other creatures I know.
What is the family structure of the beavers?
Well, beavers are really interesting because they have the mother and father, and as soon as they're born, one life cycle goes, or one generation goes, and then the next birth cycle, that generation takes care of them. So the brothers and sisters will be taking care of this group. They're very interesting. They have a social structure where they take care of each other and they interact, and it's very interesting. One of the things that will keep more beaver from coming is the fact that there's a group there. The beavers will be able to recognize a family member from another group, even if they've never met them before. But if a foreign group comes in, they'll just fight them off. That's what keeps more beaver from coming in. If this family disappears, another group will come in.
Yeah.
So what keeps the beaver from multiplying from foreign beaver is the fact that there's a family there already.
Yeah. And I saw the beavers down by Bertola's restaurant. I went in and I saw him one day, and the papa beaver popped up. And boy, he's big.
Yeah, he's probably a 60-pounder. Now, beaver are interesting because
60 pounds is your
probably,
estimate.
yeah. Beaver will grow their whole life. They're an animal that they don't stop. So as long as they're alive, they're growing. So the older beaver end up being weighing more. Lifespan of a beaver is arguably 20 years. Female beaver basically will live about 12 years because of just
I
nature.
saw in the family structure, I saw a mom and a dad and 2 kids that I saw. Are the 2 kids still alive, or one died?
There's 2 kits from the original birth.
Yeah.
And everything's going with the mortality, the natural mortality. So what we're seeing is what really happens in nature. A couple beaver got lost. You know, they died from natural causes, and I think there are 4 new baby kits from this generation, the newest generation.
You ever swim down and go and look at their dam?
I spent a lot of time looking. I don't literally swim in there. The creek is not something you don't want to swim in because of pollution upstream.
Yeah, okay. But you get down along the creek bank and check it all out.
I've been really close. I've been within 5 or 6 feet of the beaver. Beaver are very friendly animals. There's this woman that studied beaver she had beaver alive for more than 24 years. They would be here like on our laps. They like to eat different things, and they're very social to humans if the humans don't bother them in a negative way.
Yeah, okay. So what is, with the city council forming a subcommittee, you were on that committee as I recall.
I was on the committee.
I didn't go to any of the meetings, but there was a majority report, there was a minority report.
Well, yeah,
I thought
sort
you
of.
participated in the minority report, you know, without going into the merits of both sides.
Well, no, what it was is actually, it was basically just a big report. Everybody went in and researched, and it was very interesting because I took on 14 different topics. And that was because I could see that we needed to make sure we had a voice for wildlife, and that some of that voice wasn't going to be there. And what basically, just to put it down to the very small amount, most of the problems with the beaver were perceived. There was no flooding because that part of the creek was the narrowest part of the creek per volume. And actually at a half volume of the creek, the beaver dam got washed out 3 different times. Not even a full storm.
So that doesn't break the beaver's heart. He loses his dam, he just rebuilds
puts
it.
it back. But what I'm trying to say is the human perception of wildlife being a problem in Martinez as flooding was not there.
So the force of the water, when the water really comes, no matter what that beaver does, it's going to wash that thing out.
And just for protection, we put in a system to pull it out, just so people would say, hey, we can't risk
Did the
that.
city ever have to do that?
No, no. And then the other things that were perceptions of the population, the mortality level of beaver is such that it stays in check. One interesting one that I thought was really funny is that right away people thought that the water was stagnant and there were going to be problems with mosquitoes and things like that. And it's documented that when beaver move in, certain populations of mosquito go down. Some of them go away completely. The West Nile type of mosquito doesn't exist behind a beaver dam. So that business about mosquitoes was even gone. And that's the whole perception deal. And in fact, there's an interesting, I have to laugh.
Why did they come to Martinez?
Well, beaver are upstream, and they've been upstream for years. And they're starting to come down. There was beaver up towards Sacramento. They're in what they call the head of the bay. We call it the head of the bay. And there's some beaver that exist without dams. All they need is water. The dam is just to keep a water level there. So there's beaver up in the delta.
So the reason they build the dam is to keep the water level up.
Water level,
Martinez Creek drains out with the drought, 6-month drought in California. It empties out.
It almost goes dry.
It almost goes dry, but these guys build the dam to keep the water up.
Keep the level up so they can
Seems
move around.
harmless to me.
It's
So
totally
where is the greatest threat to Martinez? Is it the flooding? Because we have to admit the city put a lot of money in the flooding.
Well, what was going on there, it was a political deal, and they wanted.
But they did put a lot of money into it.
Oh, you're talking about
the infrastructure that was put in to protect the buildings,
I understand what you're saying.
owners.
Well, a lot of that was done around the train station, and it was planned as reconstituting the marshland.
Yeah.
And not all of it was spent in the beaver area. That was just basically, that was people deal, and that was because we built our houses on the floodplain.
Yeah.
And in fact, the reason our place floods is because of all the housing upstream, up in Alhambra Valley, and they're still doing it.
No, I
Doesn't
know
make
that,
sense.
but you can't go back and say we're going to take out
No,
all
no.
those
But what I'm
houses.
saying is that beaver had no threat on that. The fact that the dam washed away, it was again, it was the perception.
Well, that turns out to be a pretty good thing.
And
If
then-
you're telling me, and by that you're telling some people that are watching this, there's 4 people watching this show, right? No, seriously, your mom and dad. No, but really, if what you're saying on the air is somewhat of an expert on this, is that if the water flow gets great enough and the force of the water gets great enough behind that dam, the power of the water in the creek will blow the beaver dam
Right,
away.
and a more accurate way of saying it is it goes away as proportion to the storm.
Yeah.
A light storm knocks the dam down a little bit. A heavier storm knocks it down a little bit more, and the heaviest storm will knock it out completely. So there was never a building up of water. And in fact, during the time when all the TV cameras came down there, the water was in the streets and the beaver dam was flowing. So the water.
And Scola was parked in the corner ready with the wire and the cable to pull it down, right?
Never had to do it. And in fact, one time I talked with him and he said, like, I can't even see the dam, so we're not doing anything. It was just there. I was down there one day where I saw a big tree come out and just whoosh, dam was gone.
Are you still going to the Friday night, well, it's not, the Wednesday night city council meetings?
I go on occasion. I've lost interest, and I don't want to be real negative because this group doesn't really listen to people, so why go? Why waste your energy?
But they've heard you a lot, let's admit.
I used to go, and I used to go because I thought I had something to add, and you know, what's the right term? You got to help me with this. I'm prejudiced, you know, but I do think.
Well, you have certain perceptions and beliefs.
Well, let me say this. Do you mind?
You have beliefs. Well, of course, yes. Go ahead, Julian.
There's this whole deal in Martinez where you got people like me that have been there a long time.
Yeah.
And you go back east. You got people back east. You would never argue with a New Yorker or a Bostonian and say, you know, bull, you've been there all your life. You don't own this place, you know. And it's not like that. We're around. The people that are here have been such a long time know so much about the town that we're a valuable asset. But we have some people coming in and they always think it's their cherry. Every new one comes in and says, "Oh, this is our cherry." One example is they say the waterfront. They say the marina is the jewel. It's not the marina that's the jewel. It's the waterfront. The fact that we have a natural waterfront, marina or not, the jewel of Martinez is the waterfront. It used to be a harbor. We used to be a harbor town. People would come and they would tie their boats to the pier because it was a harbor. It wasn't a fancy marina. So we need to say that. I go down there and I see 100 people down there on the weekends. And they're doing everything from riding horses to flying kites, kayaking, having picnics, doing equestrian activities. We still have Martinez horsemen down there, and they were down there with, I would say, 75 horses competing in an amateur gymkhana event. And speaking of that, I know, in fact, the fact is that there are horses in Martinez. There are at least 300 horses that have an address in Martinez. And I think that's pretty significant. Just because we started out with the horse, I had to sort of say that.
Yeah.
So,
you got a feather in your cap, Julian. Did you know that?
yeah, actually, there's 3 of them. And these all came
Indian
out.
feathers?
No, they came out from Franklin Canyon. There's two owl feathers and a turkey feather. And it's kind of what I'm doing here. And
You ever get any wild turkey out in Franklin Canyon?
yeah, and you're allowed to hunt them. You get a hunting license and you can hunt them.
Take it to your mother, Virginia, and say, let's put it in the oven?
She makes me pluck them and clean them myself.
What are the other 2 feathers?
An owl, barn owls actually.
Yeah.
And I like to, the whole deal here is that, this is a cultural statement. I was raised from a ranching family, and as I get up in life, I've been dressing like this for the last couple of years, and I consider it, a tribute to my background and my family, just like other people of different cultures decide to say, this is what I'm about, and that's why I've been doing it.
I'll tell you a story, Julian. When I was a boy, I had an uncle that was my father's brother named Ray.
I heard
Uncle
about Ray.
He never married, never had any children, but he lived in the family home out on Alhambra Avenue, and he was quite a character. And he was quite a horseman and a very good cowboy. He had a ranch out next to Tavan's place, way out there by the Catholic cemetery now. Anyway, to make a long story short, somehow a horse fell on him, and he was stranded with this horse on top of him, and he had broken a leg. And he was in deep trouble. And your grandfather, Julian Frazer, I think it was Julian Frazer.
Yeah, that's my grandfather.
Pulled the horse off him. And my uncle always said, he saved my life.
And my grandfather leased property right in that area, and he was probably out there checking on the cattle. That's my guess.
That's
I don't
right,
know if he was on horseback himself. But yeah, he was a good horseman as well.
So you knew your grandfather, Julian?
Oh yeah, he taught me to ride. We used to ranch out there. I collected cattle with him.
Yeah.
I wasn't the quality then. I was just a kid, barely stay on the horse, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Some of our things,
Did you enjoy your time you spent on the Martinez City Council as a politician?
Yeah, I always say, I enjoyed it. There was some different things. I always say the hardest part of the council is getting elected. I was fortunate. Harriet Burt and I, we collected the most votes in the history of Martinez, just under 10,000. She got, on election day, I beat her by 3, and then when they counted the rest of the votes, she beat me by 12. So I often said to her, well, we both got to the feeling of being the top vote getter.
Well, she was a good politician, still is, but in addition to being a community person, but she was good at getting votes too.
Well, we were within 12 votes of each other, so we were pretty good at it.
So you had a pretty good time on the city council.
I had a good time. There was never a vote I regretted. I always
Were you
voted
ever,
my
in
heart.
the entire 4 years you were on the Martinez City Council, did you ever vote in the majority?
Yeah, usually when we were voting for parks and things, that usually happened, and I was able to get things done by being the minority and promising I would change my vote for this if you do that, but.
Swapping, you swap votes?
Well, it wasn't a swapping vote. I knew I was going down in smoke, so I'd say, well, I'll vote this way if you do this, and
You attended local schools?
Oh, yeah. I went to Montecito. It's not here anymore, but that was the best school then. Martinez Elementary was there. I went to the junior high, and then, of course, to the high school. I graduated in 1971.
You didn't have my mother in 2nd grade, did you?
What, was it Greerty? Was her last name Greerty? No, because she didn't teach at Montecito.
No, she was at Martinez Elementary.
No, I misspoke there. I was just identifying the school. I never did go to the elementary. Wait, I went there in kindergarten for one brief time. A kindergarten teacher. Teachers I remember was Miss Lord. Let's see, what was there?
So
Miss
71,
Bradshaw.
you were between the Turners, between Norv Turner and Ronnie Turner, but you didn't play football. You were busy.
I actually played football. I was from my freshman year. I played pretty well. I was basically a bench warmer after that. But I sat on the bench and watched Norv. I have a real affinity. I got to catch his balls and also Ron as well, because Ron was also there. He was an athlete. I think, I'm not sure, but it was close to the end of his freshman year. He was almost up to varsity. I'm pretty sure his sophomore year he was a varsity quarterback.
Yeah.
So, and they knew football. They both did, and Norval turned. I used to say Norval won games by himself, offense and defense. I've watched him win a game that way.
Yeah, he used to do that. He was very, very good.
I saw interceptions.
Very smart.
Yeah,
interceptions. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw him win a game by himself, and that's a misstatement. But he made the plays.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you got all involved in that. And so do you remember? Do you still keep your Romeo roots up?
Oh yeah. I've always regretted that name has to stay the background, but.
You can't go Julian, Romeo,
right.
Frazer? Is that what you can't do?
They don't do that with guys, but you know, I interact with all my relatives. We just had a party for my dad's 80th birthday, and we had the Romeos and Frazers out there. There was more than 100 people attended.
Out in Franklin Canyon?
Out in Franklin Canyon, yeah.
Would you cook a pig or something? Or?
No, we basically went down, and we actually went to Walnut Creek here, and it was an Italian motif in terms of food.
Yeah.
The empanadas were the top of the... We got them from Chamateros.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. You're kidding. With the special recipe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who's got the recipe?
Oh, God, we were serving the cake and everybody walked away to eat the empanadas.
Where'd you get them from?
We got them from Chris.
Chamatero.
I think her name's Bailey now, but yeah, Chris Chamatero, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Chamatero.
Yeah. They were going crazy over them, the old Italians.
Walker, I think, was her name.
Yeah, Walker. I missed
Walker,
it.
yeah.
Walker,
she
Chris
was in school with me. Her husband was in school with me.
Yeah.
He passed away, Kinney.
Yeah.
But she's a Walker, but
Walker
she's a
was her name.
Chamatero. Her dad was the famous Chamatero.
Yeah.
So all the Romeos would have eaten those things. They were delighted them.
Oh, yeah, we used to eat them once a week when they were being made. My mom worked at Hilson.
Was your Uncle Brian there? The cowboy?
Yeah, they were all
and Bob?
there. Bob was there, yeah.
Yeah, all the cowboys.
All of his kids, yeah.
Yeah, Brian's still a cowboy, and Bob, nothing's changed on that stuff. Well, who are you backing for city council in the fall? You backing anybody?
I don't know anybody, to be honest with you. I know the incumbents are there, and you know how that goes. I'm kind of disappointed. The thing...
Remember that historic battle you had called Save Historic Martinez?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy, talk about a titanic battle. How many years ago was that?
Oh, God, it's got to be 10 or 12 years, hasn't it?
I don't think it's been that long. But that was...
At least 8.
With the newspaper editor from the Gazette?
Oh, God, they hired a shill to attack anybody. I was very disappointed. They attacked my family, my friends. You know,
you got rode on a rail. There's no question about it.
It was interesting, but I managed to survive.
You survived it. Yeah.
Nothing was true. I mean,
what kind of work you doing these days?
I'm a facilities manager, a little school, private school for kids with disabilities. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So I just make sure the school's safe.
But you still go out and ride horseback on the weekends.
That's basically I've always wondered. People said, you know, in life you got to get a hobby, and I finally found one. You know, so it's kind of this is my passion. Yeah.
Is riding horseback.
Yeah, I have 4 horses, and we keep.
Where do you keep the 4 horses?
Out in Franklin Canyon. Yeah.
In the ranch property?
My dad's part. Yeah.
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 In the barn there, or what?
I got my own little barn. Yeah. Bed and barn. We have right now they're out in pasture. I was able to pasture them half the year, which is
How
good.
much food do those horses need?
They eat somewhere between 10 and 20 pounds a day, depending on the size of the horse.
Now this is a smaller horse. The horse you had at the beginning of the show.
It's an average sized horse. It's about 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. What's the biggest one you have? How about what's he weigh in at?
Oh, bigger horse. You can get a horse about 2,000 pounds. You know, you can get. I think you can get a horse about 18, 19 hands tall. Hand is about 4 inches.
Yeah.
4 fingers. That horse is 15.2, which is 15 hands plus 2 inches.
But that's a lot of money to feed them. I mean, you graze them and everything out on the ranch.
You know, it's a commitment. Before I got the horse, I had to think about it. You know, I thought for 3 years before I committed to it. I had friends who would let me ride their horses, and I was offered horses. I had to turn them down.
Yeah.
And I finally said, hey, you know, you got to think about it. And you said, okay, I'm ready. And then so.
And you ride in San Francisco from time to time.
Yeah, I just got invited to a patrol group there, and we patrolled Golden Gate Park this weekend for 3 days, and I'll be doing 2 days this weekend as well, and we're going to be there.
Who's out in Golden Gate Park? Are the marauders or vandals or what?
You know, it's all the park people, and mostly it's good people. You come up on the horse, and the people see you there, and it's a funny little group. I don't want to really publicize it and everything, but we get a little badge and a full-on uniform. Yeah. And when they see us, everybody says hello, and they're happy. And if
your personality change when you get a badge on you, Julian?
No, I'm even more friendly. I figure, you know.
Yeah. Well,
you know, it's just a way of making people feel safe, and anybody who's the guys that kind of want to do something different, they look around and they go, well, somebody's keeping an eye on us, so we better move on somewhere else. So it's just a positive PR deal for the most part, you know. And it's kind of like it follows, you know, what I've been doing most of my adult life, which is a form of community service, you know, and this one's a lot more
Yeah.
positive than some of the other ones I've been involved with.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry.
Well, we're going to be looking for your name to see if you're a candidate for city council or some kind of higher office this year, to see if you come out in the fall and back
Honestly,
somebody.
I'd like to do it, but it's the getting elected and all the turmoil you have, particularly in Martinez, when people start telling stories about you and your family and things that aren't true. It gets you down. It takes the fun out of it. And so they've made it so where it's a money deal. When I ran for office, actually I ran for office one time and I spent less than $1,000 and people were worried I almost got elected. Next time I had a little money, I had $5,000 on my own and I threw it in. Next thing you know, I got
Put it on the table.
I put it on a table. Next thing I know, some people started giving me money, and I was the top money collector.
What'd you do with it?
I just put it in campaign flyers and walked the neighborhood and had parties. Parties was the big thing for me.
Did you get Joe Bellacci behind you?
Joe was on my campaign committee, and he was one of the top signature people. But what I was trying to say, and all of a sudden it went to a money thing in Martinez.
Yeah.
You know, people were spending $50,000 for council seats, and almost $100,000 for well, I'm exaggerating, upwards of $60,000 to $70,000 for mayor races.
Yeah.
And more than 40% of the money was from out of town, and it had developer tags on it.
Yeah.
That made it so it was really hard. We
Yeah.
ran a candidate, and we threw in some money, and we came in within 500 votes. And somehow the people that know this know what your resources are, so they just chipped in and spent $50,000 and outspent us. And they put these flyers out which say things that it's not necessarily.
Julian, tip your hat to the folks and tip your hat to the folks and thank them for supporting the Frazer and supporting you and your endeavors all these years. Say hello to Martinez, Joe.
Hello,
Julian.
Martinez. Thanks for having me, Tom. It's fun.
Say hello to Martinez. Oh, what a character. This is a genuine character, and we only scratched the surface, ladies and gentlemen. We only really scratched the surface, but Julian's quite a character, and he's a nice man. He has a good heart. He loves Martinez. We always don't agree with them, but at least in a good sense of humor and spirit, we can have our discussion. We thank him for coming on the show and bringing his horse. Until next time, this is Tom Greerty. God bless and good luck to the city and to all of you. Thank you.